Today's business is an ATM portfolio located in Dallas, Fort Worth. ATMs are kind of an interesting asset. In the right areas, they're very steady and they're very passive. This one also seems to have some tax depreciation value, which is interesting. But first, let's take a look at the cash flow. So it's 185,000 a year, about 15 grand a month, give or take. And into the asking price, $620,000, which is only 3.35 times. So not too bad, assuming the cash flow is consistent year over year since they've been placed, and it's about 3.5 years old. So if that's consistent, very solid value. If you do a loan on it, you basically end up about 2 times debt service, a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending on how that fleshes out. But very good potential there. The one thing, they're not accepting seller finance here, and they're being very, very blatant about it, putting it in a couple different places. So it's only 60 grand, maybe 70 grand that they would really have to finance if you were to do a non-cash in type deal. So it's kind of weird that they're not willing to do that, considering they're going to get quite a bit of that cash up front. But that said, it also wouldn't be really hard to bring in an investor for 10% or 15%. Finding someone to write a $60,000 or $70,000 check should be super simple. A couple considerations to keep in mind: ATM businesses are definitely quite passive once they're placed. So for the price, this really isn't a bad buy as a side hustle. And depending on when the machines were actually placed, this says 3.5 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean they've been placed in the same spot for those last 3.5 years. If they have been and cash flow is consistent, there's definitely some good value here. The seller not taking seller finance on a measly 60 or 70 grand isn't ideal and would probably need some investigation on why. That's definitely something you'd want to investigate, but assuming it's just a matter of them being hard headed, it's not a bad scenario. And then the last thing to consider is really in the business's fine print here, they do say, I think it's down here, that this is a franchise. Now, that just might be that the broker is just an idiot and put it in there without knowing. But if this is a franchise, that in itself is a little bit of a flag, because franchise businesses trade at a lower value than independent businesses because of the restrictions that are involved in a franchise agreement. So something to look into. But overall, this is not a bad business as a side hustle or even just as an addition to a portfolio. So pretty interesting little business here. And if you're in the area, it's definitely one worth looking into and seeing if it makes sense.